Good morning, everybody. How's everyone doing? Enjoying All Things Open? Yeah? All right. Thank you so much, All Things Open, for having me here today. It's an honor to be a speaker here. Today, I'm going to be talking about thriving in tech. It's a developer's journey into entrepreneurial success via adaptability. Before I get started, raise your hands up if you think you are happy in your careers at this point, you think you are successful, and you're earning what you should be earning and what you deserve. You wouldn't change a thing about where you're at right now, and you're thriving in tech. Raise your hands. Don't be shy. All right, I see some half hands. Some really, yeah, I see some hands, but for the amount of people we have here today, I don't see a lot of hands go up, and that is okay. We're all here today at All Things Open, hopefully to make some impact in our career, maybe to learn something new, maybe to meet people, connect with the community, and take something positive back to our workspace, right? Today I'm going to talk about my story. And maybe something in my story can resonate with you all as well. And I forgot my clicker, so I'm going to go grab that real quick. Oh, I have it right here. I'm originally from India, born and raised, and I am born to these extremely doting parents, and I'm their only child. Being an only child comes with a lot of perks. And the perks include getting all of their affection, time, but also comes with some cons. There is a lot of pressure on only child here. Are there any only child people here? You don't see a lot of only, yeah, there are some, so you get it. Only child people, they really have a lot of pressure from parents, at least in India, where I had to be successful and do something to make my parents proud. And it's not easy, that's a lot of pressure, because I'm the only one they have to look forward to in their lives and do something. Growing up, my dad had a small business. He was buying and selling disinfectant chemicals, and these chemicals were sold to local hospitals and local companies. Amidst all his adversities and growing up extremely poor, my dad built a small-scale business with two people, my mom and him. He was the salesman, he was the owner, and my mom was the accountant. And they ran this business from home. So they were working remote back then. And I always heard my dad talk about the customer. The customer is always right. He would always repeat how the customer is right, and we had to just do what they wanted. None of this made sense to me. I was a child, and I grew up just watching them do something. And it was so inspiring for me, and I was so proud of my parents building this for our family. Now, fast forward a few years, growing up, I was an average kid at school. I was not good at math. I was not getting straight A's. There was just nothing special about me. I was average, super average. And eventually, I discovered something called coding, because my dad bought this computer and said, go do something with this. So I would play games, I would play, there was a game using this programming language called Logo, where there was a turtle that would move around. Silly things like this excited me. And fast forward a few years, I went to do my engineering in computer science. I did fairly well in my bachelor's in India. Now came the next step, where my dad decides that I should probably go to America and live the American dream. Now, let alone I go to America, I would not be able to survive outside of my house in a different city in India. What was I going to do in America? So I thought this was a funny joke, and I did not take it seriously, until my dad told me he's really serious and wants me out. So I decided to take up all these competitive exams. And of course, I did not get into Harvard or Stanford or all these Ivy Leagues that my dad thought I might fit into. I got into the University of Kansas. It was a great experience, trust me. So I decided to leave to America at the age of 21. I told my mom not to worry. I said, hey, I will be back in a few months. I'll just go check out this country. I don't think I'll last there. And she believed me, because I had no life skills, like none. So I, at the age of 21, moved to America. I was alone. I knew no one, and I had no family. I literally knew nothing about this country, absolutely nothing. So I was in Lawrence, Kansas. That's where the University of Kansas is. And I met these amazing people. And I was like, man, this wasn't as bad of a decision as I thought. This was a journey for me with ups and downs. I was excited. I had some fear. And my first year, as you can imagine, was pretty rough. I wasn't prepared for this, and I was kind of just thrown into this. And I did what I best could. Eventually, during my master's program, I got an opportunity to be a graduate teaching assistant. So this is my class, which I taught, and I believe I was teaching C++ or Java, and this was taken at the lab. This is where I found that it was pretty empowering to see students grasp complex concepts, and they were actually able to apply that into their projects or even real world. This felt pretty good. I was like, wow, I'm able to teach them something, and they're able to do something with this stuff. I discovered this passion thanks to KU, University of Kansas, and I realized at the back of my head that I love teaching. Fast forward a couple years, I found my first job in software engineering in corporate America. I thought I made it. This is great. This is the American dream that I'm living. Absolutely awesome. So I started working on C++ and Java, and I absolutely was thrilled with this real job, earning real money. Little did I realize that this was absolutely the beginning of my career. I worked long hours. I thought I was working on impactful projects. I thought I'm contributing so much. I was killing it, only to realize that, hey, maybe not. There was a time when I was looking for this promotion, and I did not get it, and I was stunned. I wasn't expecting that. I thought everybody assumed I was doing great, and I was going to be handed over this promotion with this great raise, only to realize my manager wasn't even thinking about that. I was like, oh, okay. So that was a big disappointment for me, and I had a choice to make there. I was a few years down in this company, and I could either go back to my desk and continue working in the safe, comfortable spot and just hope to get that raise and promotion one day, if not this year, next year, if not next year, the year after, or take a risk. I decided to take a risk and went to join a startup. Now, nobody knew about the startup. They had 10 employees. 3 of them were software engineers, including me. And they were building mobile applications with this new technology called React Native. No one's heard of this. And it was just open sourced at that time. I said, yes, I'll take this job. I'm really happy. And I got in there, and I knew nothing. I did not know JavaScript, React, React Native, and I did not know what I was doing. And this was the single best decision I took in my career. I'm so glad I took that risk and got into that company. Here, I was able to wear multiple hats. Hats that included, go fix this website for us real quick, if possible. And I realized that while coding for them, I was actually making impact pretty quickly. I was able to see the user's perspectives, the product perspectives, and also the business needs. When you're in such a small team like that, every day what you do is extremely impactful. This was a huge learning journey for me, and I'm so thankful for it. But as life has ups and downs, right? I got pregnant all of a sudden a couple months into this job. Now I quit this cushiony corporate job, got into this startup with 10 people, and I'm pregnant. I had no idea what to do next. Luckily, my husband had a full-time job as a software engineer as well. So he had health insurance covered, he was earning, and I was able to take a risk again. So I thought about it and decided to take a step back, because this wasn't something I'm going to keep encountering, so I decided to spend time with my baby and switch part-time with the startup and spend most of my time with the baby, and also made sure that my tech skills weren't very rusty. Now, a year goes by, and then I realized that, okay, now the baby doesn't need me as much anymore. Should I go back full-time? But this is when I thought, instead, why don't I do something on the side with my passion for teaching and explore other avenues? I was also feeling a little bit guilty about this, and that's when my dad comes back again and tells me, don't feel guilty about being ambitious. I was like, wow, that makes sense. I needed that. So with that, my husband also asked me to apply to speak at a local conference in Kansas called the Kansas City Developer Conference. We both applied to speak, and we both spoke there in 2018 for the first time. This opened up something else for us. We connected with communities we would have never met in our lives. We met people we would have never met at work, and also got ideas and learned things that were just so different. We learned so many different perspectives and opened our eyes. I also realized that, well, I guess I like public speaking. Around the same time, I also auditioned to Pluralsight, an online tech learning platform, and I authored my first course on React Native, the big picture. Now, years passed by. I kept doing this. I kept teaching more courses. I love writing, so I started writing more blog posts, and also started speaking at conferences as time permits with a little kid, of course. Now, this resulted in specialization. Now, all of a sudden, a couple years later, I'm a specialist. I started specializing in React Native, and basically the modern front-end tech stack. And I started seeing a compounding effect. People started reaching out to me. Customers who wanted me to come train their teams on React. Customers who wanted to maybe do a mentorship with their team. Customers who wanted me to make some education content for them. Customers who wanted to maybe come and do some development work or architectural work for them. And there were times when my speaker friends would introduce me to some of the customers who needed a specific thing they wanted solved in React Native. This was great, but I had to make a decision. Now, I can't work part-time and do this, so I decided to quit my part-time job and get into full-time consulting. So I started Surya Consulting in 2020, right when the pandemic started, to offer all of these services all these people wanted from me. Now, while working with my customers, there was a few key things that I always made sure. I remembered my dad telling me about the customer is always right. And I thought he's probably right, so I'm going to follow that. And it works out. So I adopt what's called the product-first approach. And here I make sure that I understand the customer's true business needs and only offer tech advice based on their business and product needs. Make sure that I take ownership, which means I'm not just accountable, but I also bring in 100% of the passion into that work. Also, I hate working silo, and I thrive in teams. So when I join a team or my clients, I make sure I get to know their team and lift up that team spirit. After working with a few customers, I realized that although I have all these technical skills and hard skills, a lot of them really appreciated what I was bringing into the table for my soft skills. They appreciated the communication aspects, the teamwork, leadership, emotional intelligence, and empathy for the customer. So today, if I were you and I were to start, I would focus on those soft skills because hard skills like coding can be learned. Soft skills are the ones that would take you to the next step in your career. I like to call this a three-step journey. Once you have your soft skills polished, make sure that you specialize in something. It could be whatever your passion is for, UX, AI, machine learning, whatever that is, and get that community engagement going. Community engagement is where you're going to have to step out of the box, just like you are today at this conference, and make those authentic connections. And make sure that you build authority. Authority is where people need to know that you're actually good at this, so they don't ignore you. For all of you who did not raise your hands and who are looking to maybe do something more in your careers, Make sure that you embrace that continuous learning, because our landscape in tech is constantly evolving. 2 years ago, people were talking about something entirely different. And now we're in this AI world where we're wondering if we'll still have jobs as developers. So make sure you're always on top of this. Be resilient. And saying that is easy, but failures and seeing all kinds of things will make you resilient through your journey. And being adaptable. Don't be stuck to a technology or don't be stuck to a certain method. Maybe make sure that you are adaptable. And finally, be your own advocate. Don't be me from a few years ago hoping someone's going to hand that promotion down to me. Instead, make sure you're your own advocate and talk about it to your managers, your bosses. If you think you're stuck in your careers and you think you're not happy, quit that job. Make sure that you get the raise you deserve and be your own advocate. I strongly believe our careers are absolutely in our own hands, and we can take it a notch further if we can be our own advocates. Over the years, I've educated over 115,000 students through my Pluralsight courses. I have thousands of readers to my blog posts, and I've spoken at few conferences as much as I can because I have 2 kids now, and I think the key is consistency. I don't know if I was able to build some of this resilience and adaptability because of my childhood, some of the things I saw my parents go through and the motivation that I got from my father, or is it the fact that I was thrown into a new country and just asked to figure it out? And maybe it was some of the failures I faced in corporate America and how I had to overcome those, or the unwavering support from my husband in taking care of our family, and also the balancing act that I have to constantly make as a mom of 2 kids, which made me also adaptable and agile with life in general. Whatever it is, I'm thankful for my journey, and I think it is only the beginning of my journey. I'd like to leave you with a quote: code like an engineer, but think like an entrepreneur. I'm Adhithi Ravichandran, a software consultant, author, and speaker based in Kansas City, and I own the company Surya Consulting, Inc. And thank you so much for listening to me, and I hope my talk would resonate with some of you. And I'm looking forward to see your own unique journeys in thriving in tech, wherever you may be in your careers. Thank you.